Good evening, everyone. Good evening. We will allow a few people to fill into the chat here. I hope everyone is doing well this evening. Um, Tonight, we're going to be talking about Mr. Dudley. Um, I think that this ought to be able
Tonight we're going to be talking.
to give us a fair wealth of information, and it also is going to give Mr. Wells an opportunity to retort. And I think that that's there's power in giving him a voice. So we do have Mr. Wells is in the backstage right now. I am going to go ahead and Miss Prayer Garden, if you can go ahead and grab that. Did you grab that, Miss Prayer Garden there? Let me drop it one more time. I don't know how fast the chat thing is going there. So hold on one second. Let's go ahead and hello, Miss Candace. Hello. Okay, there you go, Miss Sissy. I pinned the link in the chat in the top there. So I'm going to go ahead and bring Don up really quick. And there's Miss Sissy right there. How you doing, Miss Sissy? Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Everything sounds good. So tonight we have a special co-host in Miss Prayer Garden. She's well versed in the topic this evening, and by popular demand, Mr. Wells asked for her to be present. So we also will have Miss Penny from True Crime Commentary. She'll be stopping by as well to ask a few questions and see what we got going. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring Mr. Wells on.
Hey,
how you doing, Donnie?
How y'all doing?
How are you, sir?
Hanging in there and just praying for my daughter, buddy.
I understand. I hate that we have to see each other again under these circumstances, but I guess it is what it is. Sissy is here with me.
How you doing, Donald?
Oh, I'm hanging in there, just trying to do everything the best I can,
I understand. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I guess let's just go ahead and put the situation out there. We have Don has an issue with some of the things that were stated by Mr. Dudley, and Miss Prayer Garden and himself would like to iron that out and bring some clarity to it. So you guys have the floor.
Okay. Sounds great. I didn't really want to come to all this and everything like that, but since he wants to put a bunch of lies out there, I just want to bring the truth out there. That's all I'm going to tell is 100% truth. Mr. Dudley, he started working with us about 7 years ago. He went through all the ranks, all the crews, everything, and they all pretty much fired him. He was put with me for a short.
How many crews, Don?
And I don't know how many crews or what.
Many.
went through many, yes,
Okay.
many. You know, and the first time I met him, I worked with him up to 11 o'clock, and I was like, and I never go home early, but I went home early that day.
Okay.
The next following day, by 11 o'clock, I told him, man, I can't work with you, dude. And so I told him, you go do that apartment, and I'll go my way. You go your way, I'll go my way. And then I don't know what all happened after that, but he didn't last long in the company. And you know, I hadn't seen him for about 7 years. And the next thing I know, he's working with a guy that I'll just call Mighty Mouse.
Okay.
And he was trying everything in the world to find a way to get rid of him. And I told him, I says, well, I'll try him out. I'll take him on, you know. And I thought, in the goodness of my heart, you know, if I hire him and if I give him 50%, I was giving him 100% incentive, giving him 50% of my pay, thinking that if he was about anything and he just showed up for work and worked hard, you know, that you can't get no more incentive than 50%.
Correct.
And
I agree.
and then he started
Absolutely.
coming in with excuses why he's late and this and that. And you know, and then he just started acting real funny. You know, so you know, he talks about those writings on the walls and everything. Well, I took my drywall knife, which is aluminum, and it writes on drywall mud. And I wrote down, I looked on YouTube, you know, all the ways that when people are on meth, how they might act and stuff like that. And I was writing all that down so I could memorize it. And he fit every single description of someone who's on meth.
Right.
And so he started, yeah, go ahead.
And you also wanted him to see it because that's the way he was acting. And when he
Right,
did see it, he got angry with Donald.
Well, I mean, you know, he was only with me for 2 weeks, maybe 3 at the most.
He says that he worked for you for months. Correct?
No,
Yeah.
that's not true.
He didn't. That wasn't correct, right?
That is not true. He was only with me for 2 or 3 weeks at the very most. And so I had to pay him out of my money. They didn't want to pay him. They wanted nothing to do with him. So I had to pay him out of my money. I had to pay him with a checks I got on my bank account, you know. And so
isn't there let's step back in time just a little bit.
Okay.
So what was Dudley doing before he worked for Tucker the first run?
I don't know where he went for 7 years. Have no idea what he's done in all that time. I know he caught some kind of charges, but I don't know what they are.
Okay.
I have no clue.
So has he worked for any other drywall companies in the area?
I know we found out through some Facebook or something like that he did have ties with Hammond Drywall, which Tony Hammonds is the one who tried to take that little 12-year-old boy in Kingsport and I think he's still locked up. So I know he has ties with them.
Okay.
But other than that, I just don't know.
Yeah. Go ahead, Prairie Garden.
And he also stated that you owed him a lot more money.
Yeah, of course he would. No, I mean, I give him 50%. He didn't show up half the time or anything else. And I mean, I didn't have to give him anything, but I did.
Yeah.
I mean, I give him way more than he was worth because he started, he was okay. And then he just went downhill and he couldn't even function. I mean, I don't know what the hell he was on or what he was doing, but I assume he was on meth. That's what I assume.
Yeah. Was he ever involved in any stealing of tools or any of that kind of stuff, or was he okay with that?
I have no idea, you know, anything that he's ever been charged with or anything. I think somebody has looked up his record at one point, but I don't know.
Yeah.
And what about his statement of you were pawning the tools, the company tools for money? Why would he say that?
I have no idea. He's just trying to dig up any dirt he can on me. You know, he's trying to do everything he can to hurt me. You know, and all I did, you know, I hired him. I offered him 50%. You know, if he just work, all he had to do is show up for work. He couldn't got a better deal than that nowhere. And it just goes to show he's trying to do everything he can to hurt me. You know, in every
He's wanting to disgrace your name.
right.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And he also said that you brought your oldest son to work and you were out there smoking weed with your son or around your son or something to that effect. You want to emphasize on that?
Yeah, I don't know. He had weed every day. I mean, I don't know. And I smoke weed, but I don't, you know, I've since had to quit smoking weed. I've quit everything, you know. Thank God. You know, I'm glad. I mean, it took a major kick in the ass for me, but I'm glad. You know, yeah, I'm no angel. I'm not trying to say I'm some kind of an angel. I'm not, but I am glad that I was made to step away from all that stuff, and I'm happy about it. It's
But
me
you
ask you-
wasn't. But you wasn't smoking it with your son, your 11-year-old son.
no way.
That's
I-
ridiculous.
No.
Absolutely.
That's ridiculous. Let me ask you a question, Don.
Yeah.
The Dudley that we hear on the interview with wherever it was, that's not. Is that the same? Is that the same Dudley that you know, or is that Dudley putting on a show, or is maybe that Dudley off the drugs, or what do you think about what you heard, like specifically?
I didn't even actually watch it all. I mean, Dudley acts one way, but you know, I've seen the real Dudley come out, and he thinks, you know, he down deep, he thinks he's, you know, like a gangbanger type. You know, I call it the prison mentality. You know,
Right.
and he's got it. He's got prison mentality all the way.
Does Dudley have ties to anybody else besides Tony Hammond that would give you a reason to feel suspicious about him even more?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that he has ties with people in Knoxville and other places, you know, and I don't know. I mean, I have no proof. I don't know. And I'm not going to try to lie on him. I'm going to try to be 100% honest, you know, but I assume, you know, I mean, I just don't know. But with the prison mentality, like I like to call it, or the thug mentality, I assume he's probably got drug connections in Knoxville, but I don't know that.
Right. So, do you know much about Dudley's family?
I don't. I mean, I met his dad and his brother once. I know his dad. Someone told me that his dad's has kidnapping charges in the past. I know his brother has done 14 years straight and is recently paroled about 8 months ago after serving 14 years straight. I don't know what that's about. I have no clue. I mean, it's just a matter of record.
This here, actually, if you guys can check on the screen, this is compliments of Miss Prayer Garden. What you're looking at here, do you want to walk us through this prayer?
Someone had sent that to me through an email, and it's obviously the record of Dudley's family member.
Yes.
That I'm not sure, I'm not sure what it's all about. I do know that, it's some really bad stuff, It's
Isn't
definitely,
there's a kidnapping involved in this, correct?
absolutely, from what I read in it, yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
there's a kidnapping. I'm reading
For
digital
300
scale, drugs, guns.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. 50.
Yeah, this guy was even carrying a walkie-talkie.
The thing, I like them rims because they balance well at high speed.
So tell me, Don.
Yes, sir. Oh, you're good.
Did you know about Dudley's dad's background? At what point did you become aware of it?
Just recently, through through YouTubers and people looking into it just recently.
Yeah. So it's not something that's like widely known, like that they talk about in the hollers and stuff, right?
No,
Okay. Okay. So it like legitimately no one, like you don't, I shouldn't say no one, but you don't know where this man was at for 7 years.
right. I do not know.
Yeah. Huh.
All I know is a few times I've seen that prison mentality come out, and he thought he was going to push his way around and everything with that thug mentality, and that ain't going nowhere. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. 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 So um do you what do you want to add to this situation right now, Prayer?
I was just wanting to know, if what Dudley was saying, had any backing to it, which I done talked to Donald, and Donald has absolutely cleared up that, 7 years ago he only worked 2 days, which wasn't even 2 days, more like 1 day, because it was a half a day on each day, and he had to get rid of him. Donald also informed me that the second time he worked for him 7 years later, it was for like 2 weeks, 3 at the most, and he had to get rid of him again and when he talked about the room being trashed and the wall being wrote on, it basically was, yes, Donald did write on the wall, and to try to show him, the signs of what meth does to humans. And as for the trash all over the place, was the drywall he was throwing all over the floor because he couldn't keep control of what he was doing. And it was a big mess, and Donald had to, clean it up.
Welcome,
Well,
Miss Penny.
can I elaborate on that some?
Please.
No, okay. So I hired this guy. I give him excellent pay. I ask him. I say, look, we can't get no 16-foot rock right now because there's a shortage of every kind going on in our country. But so there's a lot of butt joints that we have to cover. And I'm like, Dudley, let's do butt joints together because I don't want to have to do them all by myself. And he just completely ignored me, jumped on his stilts and went in another room and started working on the pan on the ceiling, which is like an upside down swimming pool. It should only took like 20 minutes to bed that in, first coat. So he goes in there and he spends like an hour and 20 minutes, and he's complaining about stuff in his mud, and everything. And he come running in there and he says, man, you got to get this stuff out of my pan and dump it out and get me some fresh mud. And I'm like, okay, no problem. And so I get him some fresh mud, and here a little while later, he comes running in there screaming at me saying, man, this stuff's still in my mud. Did you put it back in there? And all this and that, all kind of crazy talk like that. And I'm just shaking my head in amazement. Like, what in the hell is this guy talking about?
Right.
But so I go in there and look, and he's got this thing screwed up. It ain't even full. He's trying to coat it all together, everything, the angles, the bead, everything together. And we don't do that. He's not listening. He's just being combative in every situation. And he's throwing all this stuff, all mud all over the floor because he thinks there's this stuff in his mud. So the whole floor is basically covered in mud. I don't know what, and he's slipping around on the stills, but I don't know, but so at some point that day, he screams at me, man, just leave the job. I can handle this by myself. So I went to lunch and I thought about those words. And when I come back, I told him, you leave the job. I'm done with you. I won't work with you for one more second, man. No way. And that was, and that's when he started. After that, he was all over the subdivisions everywhere. He was calling my bosses constantly.
So hold on 1 second, Don.
Yeah.
You and I about the subdivisions and why that was important, because you felt like, or you knew he was driving around the subdivisions? Were you
Yes.
correct?
Yeah, people told me he was.
So he would have been driving around the subdivisions. Now, was that the day Summer got gone or a different day?
You know, I it's been a while back, and I'm not really sure. I know my let's see. I really can't remember for sure. I just can't be sure on that.
Okay.
I know the day Summer disappeared, my boss was making fun of me because I was driving our brand new Subaru, and he says that's a hell of a car to be putting a bunch of damn drywall tools in there and stuff. He's trying to make me feel bad or just joking around with me or whatever. So I talked to several crews that day. I talked to them all day that day. I talked to our big boss that day, and he was standing there talking to other people, and we made eye contact several times.
Yes.
So they knew where I was, the day Summer come up missing. And I think Dudley knew where I was. You damn right he did.
Yeah.
He knew where I was.
Hey, Don, in prayer, we have another special guest. We have Penny from True Crime Commentary.
Hi.
How you doing, Miss
Hello.
Penny?
I'm all right. How are you guys?
Good. Thank you for stopping by. I know that I invited you to come by because you also have a wealth of knowledge about Mr. Dudley in that scenario as well. So I know that you had a few questions you wanted to ask Don, and so I'd like to give you the floor.
Thanks. Hi Don, how are you?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm all right. I'm actually really grateful for Sweetie Pilo putting out that interview because I've always wanted to ask Dudley some questions, but I was advised against doing so, so I didn't.
Right.
But I wanted to ask, was the relationship with you guys, your working relationship, was it always problematic, or was it like
No,
ever at any, yeah, so you guys were okay with each other at some point?
I thought it started out really good, and I was really happy, and I thought this was going to go somewhere. I really thought that, man, this is going to work out great. We'll be able to handle great big homes, custom homes together, because there'll be two guys. Yeah, I might have to teach him some things or whatever, but I'm giving him 50%. He has plenty of incentive to fly right and to do right, you know. And then it just started, you know, and it's just like this guy that just fired him, a friend of mine. It was the same thing. He started out, at a certain point where he was okay and went downhill from there. He didn't get better, he got worse. And so
Okay,
to
so
me,
you say he started being, it started to go a little downhill when he was fired from a friend of yours?
yeah, it was the same thing. A friend of mine just fired him here about a week ago, and
For the same thing, right? For fudging
yep,
hours, right?
he started making excuses why he wasn't, and he just disappear, and then and his workmanship was going downhill.
Right.
I mean, have you ever seen that little video on YouTube where they put the little spider on meth,
Yeah.
No,
that's
I can't
yeah,
say that.
yeah.
No. Okay. So then I'm just coming in late to the stream, but you did know Dudley before you guys worked at the Meadows together,
Yeah,
right?
7 years prior, and I don't know where he's been for 7 years. Oh yeah, I did hear that his first wife left him and took the kids out of state, and he probably blames me for that too. So he has all kinds of incentive to try to hurt me in any way possible. In my mind, he blames
Well,
me for all his life problems.
he did talk about sabotage. He did say that you would store mud in a shed and then accuse him of stealing it. Is
Uh,
that?
my boss knows that I keep materials at my house.
Mhm.
I don't steal nothing. If I happen to use some of his materials, my boss knows I pay him for them materials. I don't, stealing is like, thou shalt not steal. It's like one of the commandments, I think. No, I never accused him of stealing. He did take a bunch of mud and put in his storage shed, but I never accused him of stealing it. I don't know where he's getting that from. He was never accused of stealing mud or
Okay.
any materials. That never come up.
Okay. And so I'm quoting him now in his interview with Sweetie Pilo. He says, he
Okay.
accused me of writing things on the wall that a meth head would do, then admitted he wrote the shit on the wall like a meth head does. So what was written on the wall and who
Okay.
actually wrote it?
Okay. Let me explain this again. Okay. Because I think you missed this.
My
Okay.
bad.
So while he wasn't there that one morning, I think. So I looked on YouTube how some of the ways that meth addicts act, and I can remember one of them, and one of them was hyper focused.
Hmm.
You get hyper focused on one thing, and you can't concentrate. But I remember hyper focused is one of the. But I was trying to memorize these things so I could recognize when a meth head's around me, because I've been through 7 of them in a row, and he was the 7th one. That's how bad it is around here. I
So
won't even hire nobody because of it now. I
you
can't
wrote
afford.
it on the wall? You
I
wrote it on the wall?
no
I
listen,
under,
listen.
I understand why he did it. It was kind of like bringing some awareness to the situation. Like, dude, we
I
know
was
what's going on.
I
Like,
was I was trying to understand it,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
and he fit every single one of them.
Okay.
And it was probably, and I know Donnie, he's a smart ass. It was probably Donnie, also part of Donnie's way of saying, hey, dude, like, like this is what it is, like, please, like, let's fix this or what, Donnie's own way. But I understand why Donnie wrote it. I have a sister I had a sister that was an addict and an alcoholic, and I'd done much the same thing to her about her addiction as well. So I can sort of understand. I mean, not sort of. I can understand that fully. I'm sorry. Prayer, you still awake?
Yeah. Hey, Donald.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask. He said that you told him about a dream of beating your kids to death or something. Is that any truth to it?
No way. What in the world? Wow. Wow.
Yeah, I remember that. He did say that that
Did he
was one of
really?
the dreams. Yeah, he did. And
Yeah.
well, he said that you would have dreams about going to prison for Rose's disappearance.
No.
He said
I
that
don't.
too.
Wow. That's the first time I heard that. But see, I ain't gonna waste my time listening to his. I'm not gonna listen to it. No way. That is crazy.
Well, I
Wow.
think it's awesome that you are coming out here and you're, sticking up for yourself and,
Well, I appreciate it.
allowing people to know the truth, Donald. I mean, that's what you need to do, and I absolutely admire you for that.
Well, I
Thank.
appreciate you guys for allowing me to do it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Penny, I know you had a few more inquiries. Feel free to fire away, love.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So I did catch the part where Prayer Garden asked you about the smoking the weed at the job site. I know that there's a gag order on your boys, so I don't want to ask you specifically about that, but would you ever smoke weed at work?
Okay, I didn't catch that last part.
Would you smoke weed at work on the
No,
job?
no. I mean, it's one thing if you smoke it in your vehicle because that's your private property. But if
Hmm.
you smoke on the job, that's automatic. You're automatically fired. You cannot
Okay.
do that. And
Okay.
I have been caught doing that before. I'm not going to lie to you. And
Hmm.
I have been sternly warned the next time I'm fired. And I know I'm not going to smoke on the job.
Okay.
Hey, Donald.
Yeah.
He also said that when you dropped off his paycheck, he asked you how Summer was doing. Do you remember that? What kind of tone did he use when he asked that?
Well, I know he had his mother-in-law or somebody filming, recording everything that was said. And I
Mm-hmm.
was just trying to give him the last bit of money that I figured that I owed him. I didn't have to give him a damn thing, but I did. I wish, I mean, but I didn't have to
Wait.
give him a damn thing. But
And
I
he was
paid.
saying you shorted him money. He was supposed to get 1,800 and he got 300,
No,
I think.
that's all lies. That's all lies. And and you could go back and forth on this subject forever. It don't mean a damn thing. I mean, it
I
don't
think
mean nothing.
I think it's important when he asked you about how was summer. I
Yeah.
think it's important to know the tone. What kind? I mean, how did he say it? Like
You
concerning
know,
or like threatening?
well, I mean, he was trying to, I don't, we're talking
Was it
about,
more like how how's the case going? How's the case going? Or was it more like oh how's summer? Like possibly
yeah, I
he
don't
knows something you
remember,
don't.
I don't remember exactly everything that was said that day, and it was a long time ago. And I drove up to Virginia to give him the money and I paid him cash. And then
Oh, okay.
he called my boss and told him that I didn't pay him a damn thing. But unfortunately for him, I had my son Josie with me. And
Right.
yeah, Josie witnessed how much I give him and everything else.
Exactly.
Would that be the first time that he's ever met any of your kids?
No, he's come up to my house. Where you see Summer dancing in the rain, that
Mm-hmm.
yellow
He was there that day, right?
no, me and him jumped in my little truck and we drove way out it was like an hour and a half away, way out past Greenville into
Oh, like you rode together.
yeah, we rode together because we
I
had a
see.
long distance to travel. And I don't know, like I said, at first he was okay, and then he just started. Have you ever tried to argue with a meth head? I mean,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're not gonna get nowhere. You can't reason with.
True.
That's the only way I can explain it. He
He
just started.
said he said you would call him out to a job that was all you finished the night before and just have him sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Is that true?
Here again, why would I hire somebody and give him 50% to just so that I could fire him and get some kind of joy? I mean, why would I do that? I had
Uh,
I hired him in the hopes that he would work out because I wanted to do big custom homes. I wanted somebody I could depend on every day, you know.
exactly. If he's making money, you're making money.
Right, exactly. It could have been a really good partnership, but he chose some other direction. And I'm not trying to tell you that I'm some kind of angel. I've had my drug problems in the past. I've had my drug problems recently that I'm, you know,
Did
but
you go 90 miles an hour and try to lose him?
I don't know. I don't.
He said that you would drive 90 miles an hour because you knew he didn't know where the job site was. So you would drive really fast and try to lose him so he couldn't get there.
I think I did do that towards the end. Yeah, I think
Good
I
for you.
did. Yeah, yeah. And then he called and got the address or something. Yeah, I did. But anyway, I
So,
ended up having to fire him because
was there any other times? I'm sorry, you weren't finished.
no. If he wouldn't have been such a dipshit, and I truly believe he was on meth. I mean, I don't know that. I can't prove that, but that's what I believe because there's just
Is
no
he
other. In, what?
Donald? Is he the one that Candace was saying was looking at Summer weird and she didn't like it?
Yes.
I
Candace does
remember
not like
that.
him.
Can you expound on that a little bit? Because I have not heard anything about that. I don't know nothing about that.
That was actually part of my next question about the kids, because his wife also mentions Summer, or mentions seeing Summer, and also mentions having met Candace or have seen Candace at the house. So I was gonna ask you, that one time that his vehicle was parked on your property, was that the only time, and was it always only to carpool to work, or would he come over and hang out?
No, he just would come over and just to park his vehicle to ride with me to go to another job, and that probably only happened 3 times.
Mhm.
But you know, But yeah, he wanted me to hang out with him a couple times and go meet his dad, which I did. You know, no problem. I meet his dad. You know, but
Was his wife ever up to your house?
I don't think so. No, but
She
she
said
come
she
out.
was.
She would come out to the job and meet up with him here and there, and I met her a couple times like that. But
She said she had been to your house on 2 occasions.
she may have been. I really can't remember. She might have been.
He says that one time while he was there, that Candace ran out of the house yelling, "Did I ever tell you I hate fucking kids?"
No way. Candace loves all kids. I call bullshit on that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
Okay.
Let me ask you, does Dudley, does he know Jody Sue or Andy or any of that bunch?
I don't know if he does or not, or maybe some through some distant acquaintance. It's hard to say. Um, in my opinion, when you're into the drug world real good, you got all kind of friends if you got drugs. I mean, that's just the way it is. I don't know, but I don't know.
Donald,
Yeah,
has Summer ever came up missing before?
never. She's been
I have. Okay, I have people saying that
never.
that you
No.
said you had just got her back when she came up missing again.
Yeah, I heard that recording, and I also heard that I was pretty drunk, and I apologize about that. I mean, I don't know if they cut it and edited it together, or if I actually said something like that. I don't know, but I sounded pretty drunk. I apologize for that. I mean,
Apology accepted always.
I'm trying to
Um,
straighten it out. I'm
Absolutely.
not trying. I'm doing it.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, you're
so
doing great.
You're
You're doing
good.
great.
Thank you.
And Candace is doing great too.
Yes, she is. She is.
Yes, absolutely. God bless her.
God bless you all. God
Miss
bless
Penny, do
um,
you have you want to touch on some of your other points?
well, Jody Sue was just mentioned, and that was in one of my questions. You've been on record as saying a lot of people, like, I guess suspecting a lot of people. You've mentioned Jody Sue, Fred, Allie, you think has had something to do with that, but you're pretty adamant about Dudley. What
Well,
makes him in your mind stand out more so than
okay.
everything?
I'll tell you. For one thing, for some reason, I feel like he blames me that his first wife left him and took the kids and went out of state. For some reason, he blames me for all his life problems.
That would be good motivation.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
is it logical though? Did you know him when his first wife left him?
I don't know. He was just telling me about it, and, so I don't know. And this wife he has now is a new wife. And I don't know if she's got a kid. I don't think it's his,
Okay.
but I think he's got a personal vendetta against me, and he blames me for his life problems. When he had every chance in the world, I give him every chance, even 50% of the money. Who does that?
Hmm.
Yeah, I
He
don't
had
know.
every incentive to fly right, and he chose not to. He can't blame that on me.
So you would say it would be accurate to sum it up as, out of the people that you have bounced around in your head before, to you, he has more motive, you
Yes,
think?
yes,
Okay.
Because of what he believes
right.
his first wife, he thinks you have something to do with that.
Yeah, he's blaming everybody but himself, and I'm probably his number one pick for blaming for his life problems.
Mm.
Is
And
what
so Dudley said he had an alibi, right?
he has an airtight alibi. He had
So
he had his truck up on jacks and was up under the damn thing, sprayed painting the frame and under the damn truck. I don't know what the hell he was doing, but he made sure everybody in that apartment complex knew where he was that
really,
day.
Like do you? I mean, in your opinion, do you feel like he may have tried to make himself too known around? Like,
That's kind of what it seems like to me. He
right?
knows
Like,
he got an alibi.
I
Yeah,
mean, because we know, like, all an alibi would really have to contain is, you know, when the police call, they just say, "Hey, was he over here all day?" And you know, if you told your old lady, "Hey, if they call, tell them I was here all day," like that makes an alibi. That's not like there's
right.
nothing to that, right? So,
Exactly.
Well, I would think with the severity of the situation, they might want to check, like if he was outside working on his vehicle, there might be door cams or like apartment complex cameras. Does he live in an area that might have any sort of cameras that would validate that?
Well, he was saying that I think at his wife's mother's, his mother-in-law's apartment there or something. And so there was plenty of people around seeing him throughout the day.
Okay.
okay.
Namely, I mean, I don't know though.
But he did state, I did hear just enough of his little interview with that lady, the blonde haired lady there.
Sweetie Pie Low, Miss
Sweetie
Lauren.
Pie Low, yeah. He said that he had been cleared by the TBI and the UBI or whatever and all that. But then you have Sheriff Lawson. They say nobody's been cleared, right?
Right.
Absolutely.
So was
But
Dudley ever a person of interest in the beginning, or was he outside the bubble?
He's been my number one suspect from day one, and he still is. I think he had something to do with it, and I think he knows something about it. And I'll tell you something else. When he started calling my boss, he was crying several times. He called him, I don't know, probably hundreds of times. But he told my boss, and my boss he hasn't memorized better than I can remember, but he says, I got too close to that family. Mind you, he's crying when he's saying this. I got too close to them. The hills have eyes. Um, that's all I can really remember at this time. But why would you say that? I got too close to them. And then me and my wife, all I ever do is work and go home. At that time, we might have had a few drinks here and there and maybe smoked a little weed. That's all we done. And he was trying to tell my boss that we're into all kind of heavy stuff, which was not true.
Right.
And we just loved our kids. We might have drank a little, smoked a little, but for the most part, we was there for our kids. Our kids are our number one, and that's it. That's all. That was my whole life, was coming home to my kids. I bought them little motorcycles. I just bought Waylon a little electric one. I was trying to teach Summer how to drive it, but she's a girl. She would rather just run, and that's what she did. She ran. She'd run behind them over and over and over and just keep up with them. She loved it. She just loves to run.
Yep.
That was my whole life. My little girl and my kids. That was it. That's all I cared about. That's all I wanted.
Jody Sue made an accusation that you guys had lost one of the boys once, and that took the whole neighborhood to find them. Is there any truth to that?
No way. No truth whatsoever. Straight lie. Straight lie.
I think that there would probably be some sort of informational report or something from the police.
Hey, Benny.
Yeah.
Because there are occasional bears, okay? And there are dogs that run in packs, because we can hear them howling at night at certain times in the summer or whatever, right? So I made sure to show my kids YouTube stuff like wild dogs that run in packs and how they attack, and bears. And I scared them, especially Summer, because she wasn't afraid of nothing until I started showing her the stuff on the YouTube channels about how these wild animals can be and everything. So I made sure we had 4 walkie-talkies.
Right.
I bought each and one of my boys a knife, and I told them if
they couldn't leave without it.
Sir?
They couldn't leave without that walkie-talkie and that knife to go down on.
No.
Yeah.
They had to be together.
Right.
And Summer would not, even if the boys went down to the creek They had a walkie-talkie, and each one of them had a knife, and they were always together. And I made sure of that. I taught them that, bro. I made sure of that. But Summer, she might watch them from the top of the hill, and she might even go down maybe 10, 20 feet, but she would never go down there with them. She was always scared. And the only reason she'd go down that far is if her brothers were down there. But if her brothers weren't down there, she would not leave from around the house. She would not.
So there's a question that I've pinned right here. If anyone, Don, Prayer Garden, or Penny, if any of you know the question, or if any of you know about this question, again, I've stated to Penny many times that a lot of what I do doesn't require me to know every single detail of all of this, and so it says here pinned. It says at Benny, does Don find it strange that Jody Sue knew Summer was missing before anyone said Summer was missing? Is that even a thing?
I don't know if that's a thing, Benny.
Okay.
I think she's just a complete nutcase. You know.
From what I understand, okay, so she heard the scream, right? She says she heard the scream. She brushed it off. I think Andy was supposed to be coming to pick her up for something, which is why she had her purse. She was down at the bottom. She heard everybody yelling for Summer, and then it registered to her that the scream must have meant something, and then she started to go and walk the creek. I believe that is what I remember her saying.
Yeah, and originally her original story, okay, when
Good
this
question.
first when all this first happened, she said that her and her kids were up at their house up there on the hill, and she heard the screams from up there, and she eventually walked down her driveway. So she's got two stories going on.
Well,
Yeah, and
actually,
I could very well be. I'm sorry, Paragon. I could be misquoting her. I haven't listened to her stories in quite some time, probably since October. I could be misquoting her. She could have heard Candace and everybody yelling for Summer while she was up. Could have been down. Either way, that's when she heard everybody yelling. Then that's whenever she realized the scream must have meant something, and then she went to go help.
Yeah, I don't know.
actually, there was different stories. She had said she was going to come down and meet Andy, which Andy came in after Donald, which would have been way later than you would come down a hill to meet someone. So that didn't make no sense. And then she also said that then she changed it to, I was down at the bottom messing with the flowers, doing some gardening. I know that they was supposed to be doing flowers, but I was down. And matter of fact, she said she had tore them out of the ground in the middle of the night, like Mommy Dearest, in a rage of fit when she was leaving the property. Let them plant their own damn flowers. And she also said something to the effect of something about hauling Summer's body off. And I don't know what she meant by that. I mean, it's something I don't like. I think it should be questioned.
Yep. It bothers me. They had that big dog chained up there because that thing would tear anything up. But I have no idea.
Do you remember Jody Sue? Do you remember hearing Jody Sue say that Andy told their daughter that he had seen Summer's body? And do you do you remember that?
I've never heard anything like that personally. Not me.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Does Andy
Donald
still
doesn't
come
know.
around? Oh, okay. Does Andy still come around from time to time?
Yeah, he still comes around every now and then. Um, I've seen him a couple times, but trying to figure out who some of these people are calling him and harassing him, and all I told him was join the club.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Hey Don, was Andy ever known to sell anything more than marijuana that you
Not,
know of?
I don't know. I mean, I
Okay, you
have
don't
no
know.
clue on that. I mean,
I only ask because that would change the kind of clientele that would be coming
right.
along the hill, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, I think he's been known to do some other stuff from time to time, but I don't I mean, I've heard some stories, but I don't know. I mean,
Was Dudley looked at by the FBI or just
oh
Hawkins
yeah,
County?
oh yeah,
Everybody?
yes, he was. But like
So
I
if he was looked at by everybody, then he falls into the category of everybody when they
said,
say nobody's been cleared.
right, yeah, I
Yeah.
made sure he was looked at, but
And the other thing is that I also want to mention to you guys, I feel, I mean, when Dr. Phil and when Sheriff Lawson came out with the big news that I knew all along that they had passed the polygraphs, I think that everyone needs to keep that pursed on the tip of your lips when you talk about all of this stuff, whether it be privately or online. You always have to keep the science of the polygraph in there. Now, you could see now, and this is one thing I always wanted to point out. People have said, "Oh, well, they can trick the machine or they can trick the box." Yes, you can, but the probability and the likelihood that they would both trick the box is highly unlikely. So
I
when
I,
you
I think
right,
I think it's next to impossible to lie and pass a polygraph. I've never been through it before, but I really believe it's next to impossible. I don't think there's any way. I
well,
mean,
Don, there have been people who there is a science to how you do it, and they continue to alter the machine in order to combat the things that you can do in order to pass one, right?
I've heard put a bunch of tacks in your shoe, and I tried it. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
No,
Uh,
but they actually say one of the things is that evidently they say you can clench your sphincter muscle, and that's supposed to on the old machine. Now they put something on the chair where so my point in all of that, I say all that to say that the likelihood that Don and Candace would both
oh,
pass the test if one of them had something to do with it is very unlikely. Very unlikely.
the way they ask questions, they want they get your heart rate way down. And, they ask questions so many times. If you think about if you're lying, you got to think about your answer.
Absolutely.
If you're telling the truth, you ain't got to think about it. It just comes out. You ain't thinking. It ain't affecting your heart rate or anything else. That's why I say I think it's next to impossible to pass a lie detector test and lie.
I think
Well,
nowadays, I think that the availability to trick the machine is going down and down and down. But
Yeah,
I just saw somebody in the chat. They say, look at Chris Watts.
yeah,
That was, that doesn't have anything to do with Don, but it is for us sleuthers. It is a window in to see the way someone can behave during the test and then fail it miserably. And so we know that the
yeah.
polygraph is a multi-edged weapon. It's not just to try to seek out truth or deceit, but it's used to rule you in, rule you out. It does a lot of different things. And again, like I want to really put a lot of pressure and weight on the fact that I think that it would be astronomically high odds that both of them would be able to pass the polygraph if
Yes,
they had
sir.
any carnal knowledge of a crime. Period.
Right. You dang right.
Period.
Yeah, them guys ain't stupid, man. TBI, FBI, and all them, they are not stupid.
No.
Guarantee you, if
No.
they thought me and Candace had anything to do with this or anything, they would have found out. We would be sitting in jail right now. I'll guarantee you that.
Right now.
They are
And
not.
so the other thing that I want to point out to everyone is that there also is a very high probability that that they're probably watching Don's phone calls. They probably can monitor some kind of way what he Google searches, what he has Google searched. And you got to know that even the most criminally sophisticated these days still get tripped up by the phones, right? And you've got Subaru, you've got all these different things that say that it is what it is, right? So the thing we have to remember is that they both passed the polygraph, and neither of their phones has tripped up anything in 6.5 months.
That's right.
Jody Sue made a statement that that the FBI, not TBI, but the feds have cleared her. Now, do you believe that?
I don't believe anything she says. I don't know. I just don't believe a word she says, and it just anything she says just don't mean nothing to me.
What do you think about that, Benny? You think the feds really told her that they cleared her?
I don't think so. And
I don't either.
I'll tell
Absolutely
you why.
not. I called and tried to ask, but they wouldn't give me no information.
Well, I'll tell you, this is what I've deduced. What I've deduced basically is, that Jody Sue, she has a situation going on it's very dynamic, right? And Jody Sue likes to allude to the fact that the police are watching and they're listening to everything going on YouTube, and for her to say that she's been cleared
by the
also
feds.
Not. I mean, she's telling you outwardly that the things that she's saying them cryptically, and that she doesn't want to give out all the pieces. And let me tell you what, if the police thought Jody Sue had any evidentiary value, she would have been pulled back in again, and we would have all heard that she was going to come back and, I've been pulled back in, and like she has. Just about everything she said has been unfounded.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, let's talk about this for just a second. Jody Sue talks about coming down her driveway with her son while Candace is coming down her driveway, and never in the chronology of that whole meeting did she say anything to them about the screen. It wasn't until a day or 2 days subsequent that she said anything to them about the screen.
That's right.
And that's what I'm getting also, is she said that she reported it to the police, the third officer, but the sheriff is saying it was unfounded, and that also they didn't know nothing about it as well until a few days later.
And so let me butt in real quick.
That's even being said by there.
Kind of the scary part about that is that it's not like the police just said it was unfounded when Jody Sue said it. It was her son that said it as well. So it's two people from the Brown clan who said they both heard something. Not only that, but Jody Sue says that her and her son both saw the red flash of the truck or the vehicle going up the hill. It's like, how are both of you both hearing and seeing things that's unfounded? Typically,
Absolutely.
in the real world, if I say that I heard something and my mom says, yeah, I heard it too, they're going to believe me.
No, that's another story that was changed up. She said that her son seen it, that they seen it, and her son identified it as one of the neighbor's vehicles. Then she came back and tried to play it the other direction.
Correct.
I heard that twice, and that's what I'm saying. Her stories are not staying consistent.
Right.
Miss Penny, do you have anything to add to this?
No, not necessarily. Don already said that he doesn't believe anything she says, so I don't really find, it's not, I kind of want to go back to the morning of the 15th when Don got to work, where there's other people around who might be credible. I was going to ask if you could describe what you remember about arriving at work the morning of June 15th, and was there anything out of the normal going on?
No, there wasn't nothing out of the normal. I talked to my buddies like I always do. I have a specific friend, and he's talked to TBI. All them guys have talked to TBI. Um, but I'd say about an hour. I mean, I was working in a house across the street from their crew, and I went over there probably 3 or 4 times and just sit and talk with them like I always do, and just bullshit about whatever.
The
And
15th that you're
yeah,
saying
the
that happened. Okay.
15th. And then, like I said, the big boss come around. I don't remember exactly what time it was. It was getting late, and he was making fun of me using the brand new Subaru. That's a hell of a thing to be putting a bunch of drywall tools in. He said he's
Mhm.
making fun of me, and then my buddy, I don't want to mention him by name, but me and him's been friends for a long time, man. And he come over there and he sat down and we just sit there and talk for probably 30 minutes. And then I thought, well, that's when I called Candace and she said she was still waiting on a prescription or something at the lake with the kids and all. And I thought, well, hell, I might as well work late. I got this big house. I got to get something done anyway. And then, I'd say about 30 minutes after my buddy left, that's when Candace called me with that frantic phone call that she couldn't find Summer nowhere. And so I threw all my tools in the back of the car as fast as I could and got on the highway, and I called 911 myself, and they transferred me from where I was, or Jonesboro, to Hawkins County 911.
Because Jonesboro is a different county. Yay.
Yeah.
Correct.
And I rushed home as fast as I could, and I kept hoping that I'd get that call that said, "Oh, we found her," but we never did get that call. And
Do you have any idea where Summer might be? Do you have any idea at all what happened to her?
in my personal opinion, I mean, they had to have thrown her in a car and gotten out of the area fast and got clean away before any law enforcement started showing up. They had to have got her out of the area fast. I mean, because we had law enforcement, in that area. I knew she was gone. I knew somebody had to have taken her and taken her out of the area. I knew that right away. I tried telling law enforcement that because I know she wouldn't just wander off. I know that. I trained my kids. I wanted them to be, not something like this ever happened. And
Would she walk off with someone she knew?
now with someone she knew, that's a whole different story, right? Yeah, that's a hard one there. Yeah, that's possible.
Would she have walked off with like Jody Sue,
I think she
H,
Jody Sue, just
Allie?
Allie, no, but maybe Hunter, but or their Hunter's sister, Truey, maybe just Truey. I mean, Truey and Summer were always hugging and stuff like that. Um,
Jody Sue babysitted her, so she wouldn't walk off with her.
no, Jody Sue never babysitted her. Hell no.
She said she did. She said she babysitted the children at your house and at her house.
That is such a lie.
Well, it could be possible, maybe, Don, that on times when you weren't home, maybe.
I think Candace went up there to visit her maybe once. We babysitted their house for them before and watched out for them when they was gone somewhere. They went to Washington, D.C. And screwed around up there or whatever they did. But no, they never watched our kids. No. Hell no.
Hey, Donnie.
And I'll confirm that when I get home with Candace.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Cold case. They want to know. Let's see here. Will you ask Don if all the neighbors' properties was searched by LE, or did they let some people search their own property?
As far as I know, the law enforcement was bragging that they never needed any search warrants or anything. They said they searched all kind of properties and houses around the area. I know my neighbor, Don, they searched his house. Don just let them in. But we don't know how far the searches went or exactly who all they searched. We don't know to what extent that they searched. I wish we did.
But I guess that's part of the strategy. They can't tell you who
Right.
didn't let you search, because then you might, take things upon your own.
That's the thing. TBI, they won't tell me hardly anything except for, well, we're still looking into it. We're still trying, but they're not going to tell me.
No.
And they're not going to tell anybody anything.
Don, there's a question here that I've heard more than once, and I thought maybe you could finally put this thing to sleep, yay or nay.
Yes, sir.
Were there any footprints found on Jody Sue's property?
Not that I'm aware of. I know Prayer Gardens had asked, kind of tripped Jody Sue up on that question, and Jody Sue said, no, not on our property, but Dobbs' property right there by them. But
how could she know that?
Yeah, but as far as I know, like when you had that map on there, Benny,
yeah.
Like, okay, so if you go from our house due west, like southwest for a half a mile is where those footprints were found, not even in Jody Sue's direction.
The other way.
Yeah, opposite way, yes.
There was 2 sets of footprints found, though. 2, not 1, 2.
Yeah, I'm not absolutely sure on that because, this is just something I recently heard for the first time. I wasn't even aware of it, so I don't even know, to be honest with you.
Jody Sue said 1 set was found down the road where you're talking about. She said the other ones were found on her neighbor's land.
Yeah, I have no idea.
And that came out of her mouth.
Right, and I just don't know. I couldn't tell you.
Very interesting. She seems to know an awful lot about the guts of this thing. That, like,
right?
Everything.
Yeah, it's very strange to me because I don't know. What do you have any thoughts on Jody Sue, Penny?
Of why she might know so much?
Well, why? Just the Sioux. Tell me what you think about the Sioux.
The Sioux. I think that, well, from my talking to her, I feel like in the time that I did spend talking to her, she did genuinely feel remorse that she didn't pay attention to the scream earlier. I've heard her cry about that quite a few times. I know that was, I think that it's probably still is very difficult for her to think back and know that she dismissed that. As far as like why she might know all of the other things, the only thing I can assume is maybe, she's talking to all of the other neighbors. But I don't think that she's privy to anything. And I don't think that Jody Sue did anything to Summer.
Yeah.
I really don't.
Yeah.
So do you have anything to add about that, Prayer?
Oh, well, I'd like to ask Penny, does she have a take on what might have happened? Does she have a theory of her own?
Theories are like assholes. Everybody has one, and
Absolutely.
it's really not important. There's a lot of good questions that happen here tonight, and I wouldn't want to muddy that up with my opinion. I'm really just here for the questions and answers, and thank you, Dawn, for sitting here with us and doing that.
Thank you all. I appreciate you guys.
Yeah, I think what we'd like to do is we'd like to wrap it up for tonight. We've gone an hour and 10 minutes. Miss Prayer Garden and myself had spoke about doing a part 2 tomorrow on her channel.
Awesome.
that's going to kind of just be up to Don and Miss Garden and Penny. I think you'd be welcome to join as well if you'd like.
Donald, do you know how to get flyers for summer?
I can find out. Yes. I think you can. There's a yes on Summer's page on the YouTube channel. I think you can pull them off there and actually print them up. I'll
Oh, you
find
can
out
pull it
more.
up
I'll
and
find
print
out
them
more.
yourself. Absolutely. That's what I do. That's what I do. I pull them up and print them myself.
Okay, but I'll find out more about that before we talk tomorrow. Okay.
Okay, sweetheart. I appreciate you coming up. I appreciate, like I said, you
Thank
know, that's what you need to be doing, Donald. You know, you need to be out here and need to be speaking up, and Candace also. And I really appreciate, you
Appreciate
stepping up
you
and
guys. Hey,
speaking
prayer.
out the way you have. God bless you, man.
God
God
bless
bless
you
you.
all. And prayers for Summer and prayers for everybody. God bless you guys. Thank you.
Give Candace my love.
I sure will.
Have a good night, Don.
Good night, guys. Appreciate you.
All right,
All right.
Miss Penny, do you have
Yeah.
anything to add in closing?
You know, I'm just looking through my very rushed questions, Jenny. And I'm looking through them. You know, Prayer Garden, you really checked off a lot of my questions. So even if you would like, even after he finished one of my answers that he was responding to for me, you, after he was finished talking, you actually would ask him one of my next questions. So that was pretty cool.
Cool. Cool.
I'm
So,
glad to help.
Sissy, do you have anything to add in conclusion?
No, sweetheart, I don't. I think that the sheriff is right. Everybody is a suspect, and as I said, I admire you, Benny, because this is America, and it is innocent until proven guilty. So
Yes, ma'am.
I love you, my brother, and I think I'm going to just peace out right now. God bless
Love you too, Miss Sissy. I appreciate you for helping curate and kind of be the guide through this. And let me answer this right now. This right here, guys, is a perfect example of differing minds and opinions all coming together for one thing, right?
The
And
love
so
of
this
summer.
is, yeah, it's about summer, right? We're trying to
Absolutely.
figure out. We're trying to make it about summer totally. And how you do
Absolutely.
that is you have to be the change you want to see, right? Do I agree with everything Penny or Sissy does? No. Do they agree with everything that I do? No. But the fact that we can all come together and still be supportive of this little girl is
They still love one another the way we love her. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean,
It's
and
beautiful.
really, there's in this type of scenario, in this setting, there really is not, especially with Dawn on panel, there's really no place for opinion. We're asking questions, he's giving the answers. He's having a rebuttal to the interview that I don't even think he actually heard all of, actually, with Dudley. But he seems like he was in a good mind frame, so he was answering clear and concise, and he was easy to understand. And I don't know, I feel like that went pretty well.
Yeah, and when you look at it in
Absolutely.
terms, when you look at it in terms of all the things that you know about the situation, right? We're all sort of insiders. And so when you look at it and you're hearing.
Is it just me, or is he quiet? Like, Benny, I can't hear you.
Hey, Benny, you lost sound, sweetheart. Yeah, you.
Yeah, I was a little bit hesitant whenever he invited me up, because he said that, well, he asked me if I wanted to come up and discuss Dudley with Dawn and Prayer Garden, and I was like, well, because there's actually quite a bit of Prayer Garden's name being thrown around in the YouTube streets. I was like, well, eh,
Well,
you know.
it's a beautiful thing, and I'm proud to be a part of the coming together of differing minds and opinions, for one cause. And like I was saying when I so rudely interrupted myself, I've always felt a confidence about the way that Don delivers, his statement, and it hasn't really wavered at all. The one thing that I can say that has wavered, and I think that it's completely acceptable and understandable, is his number one suspect, right? Like I've been with Don in real life during the day and his wife, and I've watched them progress through the day. And let me tell you what, people people here have a strange way of influencing what kind of day Don and Candace are going to have, right? Because what happens is as soon as someone makes a video that it just kind of partway makes sense to somebody else online, they're going to immediately send it to Don and Candace. And then Don and Candace, depending on whatever mood they are in at that particular moment, they take it and then they receive it. And then that completely, it dictates what they think about all day. Because I mean, imagine how we feel when we lose our car keys, or maybe our dog has went missing, or when we misplace our phone, right? Like that panic that you feel in those moments. Some of us have put a phone on top of the car and like some of us have completely lost really expensive phones. And so I want you to equate the way that you feel that panic when your phone is gone. Imagine living with that panic every day for 6.5
Absolutely.
months.
Yeah.
And then, Benny, a lot of parents watch their purse better than they watch their kids.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like that phone is, you could be falling in the river, and so that phone is like a real. It is like it's equivocal to the way we feel about our children almost, right? Like, yes, we will, not me, but some of us will, they'll grab the phone and the charger but forget the baby. So, it's one of those anomalies, and it's phenomenal to me because I have seen I've seen weaker spirited people than Don was when his stronger spirited people than Don was when his daughter went missing, and they've completely just crumbled and fell apart. And this guy is still here. He's taking a licking. He's still here. He keeps on ticking. And the really amazing thing is no matter what we think about Don, the growth that you see from Don from June 15th till today, it's a hard knock growth, right? He has been beat over the head by life for 6.5 months worth of days, no days off.
And he has kept the same suspect the whole time. Absolutely.
And so it's you look at it, it's been for the most part rock solid, consistent. It matches with the stat. I mean, not stats don't really come into play, but the science of it and the consistency, right? Like you've got Dr. Phil, you've got Sheriff Lawson. They're saying, listen, these people passed a polygraph. That means something, right? That means something.
Well, I mean, and well, we can talk about it later or on a different stream, I guess. But I mean, isn't it possible to pass a polygraph if you believe what you're saying, or if you're under like if there's substances on board, wouldn't that aid in
It
altering?
would. Well, you know what? I can't say that it
Anything
would.
is possible.
Anything is possible, but I will say
Absolutely.
this: that I trust that the fact that Sheriff Lawson said anything about the polygraph, that to me makes it seem like it's legit, right? Like Ronnie Lawson isn't going to put out a bad piece of information about a polygraph if it isn't so. And this is the thing. I said it clearly when Dr. Phil said it first on his show. He said they passed a polygraph. And I said, there you go. There's no way Dr. Phil could technically say that if he hadn't already talked to Sheriff Lawson and got the news, right? So you hear Phil say it first, and then the very next day, Sheriff Lawson comes on and he's like, yep, they passed a polygraph. It was a double down.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I hear you. I get it. I get that, Lawson says he passed polygraph. I get that Dr. Phil asked Lawson and he obviously told him yes. I understand the words coming out of your mouth. I cannot say that it would be, I would be honest if I said that I don't think that. I would be dishonest if I said that Ronnie Lawson has my full confidence.
Well, and that's the great thing about the oversight of the FBI. We know that there is a federal oversight, and that's the beautiful part about it. So there, you also have at the state level, right? You've got Lawson at the county level, and you have to do this. If Lawson was indeed involved in anything that was shady at the county level, with the state overseeing it and the federal government overseeing it, I think after 6.5 months, if Lawson was doing anything or had done anything he shouldn't have, they would have pulled it out of they'd have pulled it out of the woodwork. It's been a long time, right? So
that's true. I don't know if we would know about it though. That might be something.
You would see a change in command. You would see, you would see someone take over. There would be an outward ripple of what was going on inwardly. We would see something that would lead us to believe that, there was trouble internally.
Right.
So, I mean, I as far as the list of characters, it's wide and vast. And it's, unfortunately for this case, there isn't one person that looks good for any of it specifically, because they all sort of look good for all of it, right? Because I don't know about anybody else that's passed a polygraph. So, that's really. Go ahead.
I know some that should be taking some and ain't. So, absolutely. And that's where I'm at right now.
Penny Prayer, I want to ask you, because I know you both will be very aware of the situation, but do we remember early on when Jody Sue, or when the community, a portion of the community, was trying to solicit a sketch artist for Jody Sue?
Yes, that was me. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, I understand your motives for wanting the sketch artist, and I know why you wanted the sketch artist, but separate you from the sketch artistry. If there really was, like the Scream, if there was a founded reason for them to send a state or federal or county sketch artist to Jody Sue, they would have.
Absolutely.
Let's be very clear about that. That's one of it, and I think that got buried in the BS, right? That got buried because this woman came on the scene telling us all she knew what this man looked like so closely, so well, that if she had a sketch artist, she could make it work. So what that tells you is that, I mean, and when you go back, if we listen to anything Jody Sue says, hold on, let me make myself bigger here. If we listen to anything Jody Sue says, when she asked Penny for a sketch artist, the sketch artist wasn't going to come over and draw a picture of Don and Candace Wells. She saw someone else that did not look, she would not need a sketch artist for Donald Wells. She'd just say it was him. So Jody Sue, alluding to the fact that she needed a sketch artist, tells you right there she saw somebody else.
Now, my question is, how come the sketch artist was not ever gotten? Why did she not go through with it?
So the lady, she's at. Can you guys hear me? As my
Yes.
little
Mhm.
thing is it okay? All right.
Absolutely.
The lady that offered to do that for her, she was waiting for, I believe, Jody Sue to get a phone that had calling capabilities outside of internet use, and I think that's basically what we were waiting on. She's not a lady that's in the state.
Okay,
She's
so it's
still,
still in the
yeah.
works. Are you saying it's still going to happen?
That's between them. I seriously doubt it. But um, I mean, she does have that lady's email address and
Okay.
her phone number. So, I
I
mean,
mean,
it could.
I mean, that would be super important to the case, and I think it's something that should be, brought back up and looked into.
Of
So if you know
course.
her personally, maybe you want to ask her, Penny.
But
And
this is the thing realistically, gals. This is the thing realistically. Because so much BS came after so much more BS with Jody Sue, it's all like so do we think that we could get a credible push on a sketch now after 6 months? Like, I'll tell you what, that woman, I would almost bet dimes to donuts that that woman would not even, she would not even consent to a sketch now. Like,
I bet my ass it was all a lie.
I mean, it was unfounded. Clearly, the police, if she said she was interviewed by all of them multiple times. So she told them the same story multiple times and they couldn't never make it work. So they're like, no, we're not going to waste time even sending a Hawkins County volunteer sketch artist. Like, no sketch
Absolutely.
artist for you, period.
Right.
That speaks the world. Like, it's not like I see why we want to push and get her a sketch artist, but let's be honest. If we get a sketch artist when it hasn't been approved by law enforcement, what happens is what's happening in the Delphi case. And what that is that you have people who are taking sketches and then finding people in real world and putting them next to it. And that's not helpful. That creates a tunnel vision. So what Jody Sue would certainly do, and that's not a riddle, what Jody Sue would certainly do is she would create a sketch that had the mild likeness of all sorts of men that we would then pull onto the YouTube and continue. We'd have a whole new plethora of men to victimize. That's what would happen.
yeah.
Maybe
Well,
even you,
I do
Benny.
remember her saying something about his skin tone was a little like the guy, he wasn't just white. He like had
Darker.
an oliveness to his skin. You could tell he had something else. Yeah.
I mean, she said she saw him every day for 2 weeks. She saw him over and over and over driving up and down that road on Ben Hill, not
Benny.
Beach, on Ben Hill.
She said
So
she had trail cameras also, and
yeah,
all of a sudden they got wiped clean. And she also said that it was Donald and Candace that wiped them clean. There you go.
I never even heard that. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
absolutely is what she said. And she said that they had been moved because of Mr. Dobbs was up there. Well, I know Jody Sue well enough. If she saw some weird man riding up and down through there, she called the police on Mr. Dobbs, and she hadn't seen him ever before. Why didn't she call the police on this man she's seeing every day?
good point.
I don't know,
Isn't that a
because
question?
there was a lot of traffic going in and out of there from the tree cutters and stuff. So
But
maybe
she
that's
did.
why.
But she
But this
did.
particular man was bugging her and bothering her and looking out of
Absolutely.
place.
Absolutely. Now, also to add to that, Jody Sue, and I have it in my messages, Jody Sue also said that this same man was spotted a holler over at the same garage sale that Candace and Miss Candace had bought the clothes for summer at, right? Like, I don't know, like, and of course, I don't know how much
You
BS.
are correct. You are correct, Benny.
Yeah.
correct?
Mhm.
Remember? Well,
Absolutely.
Jody Sue went really deep with this red truck deal. And it never really made sense, but it was the fact that she kept trying to get on the bigger channel and the bigger channel to push this narrative about this flash of a red vehicle and a man that she could sketch and a truck she saw every day multiple times for 2 weeks. And it's like, to me, that starts sounding exactly like the suspect. Why is not the FBI, the TBI in Hawkins County taking this woman seriously? Why? That would be an epic cover up for all of those agencies to be in on it. Just so Jody Sue makes herself look like the whistleblower, like that nobody's doing anything. I got to blow the whistle. Well,
They
you've been.
must know. I believe they know something about her character that we don't. Maybe from the past history.
I think that's probably absolutely what it. It's all. You're rendering an opinion about her as far as her criminal sophistication and activity in regards to this. And this is what this is like. Some days I have these. Oh, okay. Damn, Penny. There's some days where Jody Sue looks better for it to me than other days. And it's like some days when you start to weed out all her bullshit and you deduce and boil down what the cause is from the effect that you see, like you don't see them taking anything Jody Sue takes seriously. So what could that tell you? Well, you know that it's not a huge cover up because she's been interviewed by the FBI. So what it tells you is that her credibility is zero. Like her credibility is none. Now let me tell you what else she hasn't thought down the road about, or maybe not even a lot of these web sleuths. Jody Sue is useless now to the court. She has given her virtual video deposition hundreds of times here, and it's changed a little bit every time. So a prosecutor will never pull her to a stand and ask her to say a fucking thing because you will just eat her ass apart. And that is fact. So if she thought she was ever going to be useful to this, she should have given her statement to the police and never showed her face here the light of day, not even one channel. Because now it's no good.
Absolutely.
I mean, I would think a lot of this stuff is it all no good since it's all on YouTube? Like, is it all no good now?
I mean, it's all tainted, right? And now this is the other problem. So when you run into a situation, let's say hypothetically they find the guy who's responsible for it, right? How do you ever think you could try this at the county level, right? Every single person in Hawkins County has seen bad press of that of this whole case, right? So whoever is responsible, once they come to court, man, you might even see a jury of people who don't think they can't convict a different offender. So they might actually let the real offender go because they're just dead set that Don is the one or Andy's the one or somebody else that they believe from the YouTube is actually the one. But now here they got to be on the jury duty in Hawkins County. So then the best you could ever hope for is a change of venue. Well, typically the change of venues, even in the O.J. Simpson case, it was like 60 or 90 miles. So it's not like you're going to get him so far away from Hawkins County, whoever this person is, where they're going to get a fair shake. So really the best thing, I hate to say it, but the best thing that could have happened is if that girl went across the state lines. If she went across the state lines, we all know, right? It makes it a federal case. So that's really the best that you could hope for, because then that offender would be plucked and then he'd be placed in some federal district court, probably not in Tennessee, right?
Right.
So then you start looking like you could get a cleaner justice if, in fact, it was a federal case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Anyways, so that's really all I have to add to it for tonight. Do either of you two beautiful ladies have anything to add to it?
Nope. Good night. Good night, Benny. Much love.
Good
God
night, Miss
bless
Yeah.
you.
Missy.
I
God
think I'm
bless you,
good
madam.
too.
You have a great night.
Good night, guys.
Good
Thanks,
night, Miss
Benny.
Penny. You have anything to add, Miss Penny?
No, not really. Not for now. I'll think about it.
All righty. Well, you have a blessed night too, ma'am.
All right. Thank you. You too.
You're welcome.
Bye.
God bless. So there you have it. You know, it is it's gonna take for us, if we're here and we call ourselves sleuths, or we call ourselves, gumshoes, or whatever we call ourselves. It's pertinent that we take in all the information and we don't focus on just one thing, right? When we focus on one thing, what happens is we lose sight of another. Now, the other may be more important than the thing you focused on, or it may not be. But the fact is you have to remain aware of all the pieces, right? Okay. You have to remember they passed the polygraph. You have to remember they handed over all their electronic devices and everything was given back and it was clean. If anything on that phone would to be of question, if anything in over 180 days, 194 days, roughly, had been askew, the chat that we just had tonight would look very different. It would be the same women, but Don wouldn't be a part of it. Okay? You have to remember that. Do not let this, do not let Don and Candace, I don't care if you don't like them or not. I don't care if you don't like what their house looks like or how they vote. Their child is a human. They're out of jail. And in America, if you're not in jail, even when you're in jail, you're still considered innocent until guilt, even in jail. So he's extra good on this side, right? It's not like he's locked up in jail and he's still innocent before guilty, but just with no bond. He's free to go to work. He's free to go to California. He's free to do whatever he wants within the intent of the law. So I beg of you all to remember that when we're sleuthing, okay? We remember that the polygraph is a multi-edged tool, right? We saw it happen in the Chris Watts case. Okay, he failed the polygraph, but they told him 86 ways from Sunday that he could leave anytime and that even if he failed the test, he could walk out. This isn't a scenario where Don or Candace failed a test, but because it's not admissible, they still walked out. It's not that. It is a scenario where they both passed the test. It isn't one lagged behind and they've got to make an excuse. And no, it was said in front of millions of people on Dr. Phil. They both passed the test. I want to say to my mods, you ladies are magnificent. You ladies are magnificent. To anyone in the chat that may feel slighted that their question wasn't answered, we were in a parameter of questioning that we could, it's so much of this has to happen in real life and away from here, right? I hope that we can all understand that, that's fair enough, right? It has to be fair enough in order to get clean justice. So we had to stay within a parameter. We are going to, I guess I'll announce it. We are going to do a Q&A with Don. We are still structuring it in the way that we want it to look. We're still taking questions. We haven't really actually nailed down the format. We don't know a whole lot about it, but what we do know is it will be happening soon. And this will be, it'll probably be one of the bigger sort of Q&As that Don will be a part of. And it will be promoted on the findsummerwells.com website. Okay. What else was I going to cover? No, Lanky, they haven't changed their perspectives. They've stayed pretty consistent. You know, they're kind of reaching all the checkpoints. So when you look at other abductions, there's going to be key high points that the families will go through. It's very mechanical, really, the way that we behave in terms of, you know, the way we tell the story, meeting the timelines, and, you know, there's a science to the way that you give a statement about abductions. And, you know, there's like, you know, at 2 minutes, you ought to be talking about this. And at 6 minutes, you ought to be talking about this. And it's actually a formula that they've, you know, hey, train wreck. Thank you, train. You know, it's a scenario where you have to, in America, look at it just like it looks, right? Little girl's gone. Mom and dad passed a polygraph. No forensics come back on the phone, right? Feds say, scent went down the hill, stopped at the road. County says she wandered away. The very real possibility that she wandered away. What do we know? We know that when Ronnie Lawson says something, for all we know, and factually, it's the truth. We are supposed to be mirroring our investigations. We're only supposed to be saying what the police say, right? So, do we think that Lawson would come on and tell us that they passed the polygraph if they didn't? What's the motivation? What's the payoff? What's the consequence and the risk? Right? You've got federal oversight, right? The very real possibility with all the states right around Tennessee that they could be to in just about no time, the very real possibility that it's completely a federal case. Okay, let's be very understanding here. That if that girl went across the state lines, it's a federal case, and that TBI and that Hawkins County, they have zero jurisdiction. Period. What that also means, unfortunately, is that if the girl has went across the state lines, any searches and any resources and any budgeting and any money spent on Tennessee searches is all for naught. All for naught. Right? So, with that, I will close. I think that this is all a lot to unpack. There's a lot to sift through and digest, and you know, and you know, the one of the keys before you unpack and do all of that and digest, you have to divorce yourself from bias. You can't come in here like, oh, I don't like the way their house looks. They might be guilty. Or, oh, I don't think this is that because of this was that. Oh, man, look here. This is America. We have justice and freedom. And right now, the Wells are experiencing both. But they're trapped in a hell. They're trapped in a hell that is compelled and controlled and manipulated by YouTubers here that are witty and clever. Okay, so you find out his job, or you find out this, or you find out that, right? But then the key is to just put your thumb on it and manipulate it, you know, with no regard. So Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. We are at 1:45 perfectly. That went, I feel like everything went good. So I will, I will catch up with all of you tomorrow, probably in the morning. Donnie, appreciate you, coming through with the transparency, telling your truth, your side, cleaning up your side of the street, so to speak. And we will catch up, right? In the meantime, in between time, to my moderators, holy cow, you guys, you ladies are phenomenal. Rap, you're pretty good too. You ladies, you whipped ass tonight. So, TT, thank you for that. It's for me, it's different, right? I've been on the hill. I ate at the table. Hell, I even pooped in Don's toilet. So for me, it's different, right? I wouldn't still be right here doing what I'm doing if I didn't believe in Don and I didn't believe in Candace. I would have quit a long time ago. I don't bet on a horse I know is going to lose. Why would I do that? It makes no sense to bet on a horse you know is going to lose. Guys, I want you to remember that the absence of evidence is not the evidence of absence. I think that what we need to do is we need to try to collectively as a group need to figure out how to control our bias. If we could control our bias, everything else would fall in line. Thank you, guys. If you can't be good at it.